Hello friends, this is Tim Collins coming to you again with our weekend word. Last week I talked about spiritual gifts, ministry gifts that God had given the church, and kind of went long, so I felt like I'd split it up, and I'm going to continue that this week. In Ephesians chapter 4, we read how God, Christ had given gifts to the church. Verse 8 says, when he ascended on high, he led captives in his train and gave gifts to men. And then on in verse 11 it talks about it. It lists the gifts. It was he who gave some to be apostles, some to be prophets, some to be evangelists, and some to be pastors and teachers, to prepare God's people for works of service, so that the body of Christ may be built up. Now, I want to continue this thought here with a couple more thoughts for you. I believe they'll challenge you. So let me say this: we, the church, should be careful in how we treat these gifts that God has given to the church. Let me just, for instance, let's say that we as parents or grandparents give gifts that we think are really nice, that we value. We give these gifts to our children, our grandchildren, for birthdays or Christmas. And we thoroughly enjoy watching those kids open those gifts and really like the gifts and enjoy the gifts. And some of those gifts are treasured for years, and that really brings a lot of joy to us. On the other hand, what if one of those children opens a gift, smirks at it, tosses it aside, and totally ignores it? Unfortunately, that's what a lot of church folks are doing to gifts that God gave the church. I know how it would make me feel as a parent, and I wonder how it makes God feel when we ignore and disparage the gifts that God has given the church. And there's another point I want to bring up here. A lot of church folks nowadays are chasing after prophecy. They want to hear from God. They want to hear from someone who says they've heard from God, have a word from God for them, at least as long as they are foretelling good things, blessings. Then we want to hear from God. And unfortunately, there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes, perhaps often, we see people fall prey to false prophets who are out for self-gratification, self-glorification, or out perhaps just for money. A true word from God is not as common today as it should be. I challenge you to consider this possible cause and effect. Perhaps there's somewhat of a ranking in this list of spiritual gifts. The less common ones are listed first, the most common are listed last. Therefore, there are fewer pastors than there are teachers. There are fewer evangelists than there are pastors. There are fewer prophets than there are evangelists, and even fewer apostles still. And so, perhaps if we value the more common gifts that we have, those teachers, pastors, evangelists among us, if we value them, perhaps then God would give us more of those less common gifts, the prophets and the apostles. Maybe, maybe not. Okay? It's just something to think about. Chew on that for a while. I want to point out, next month, October, is Ministers Appreciation Month. So be planning now. You've got a couple of weeks. Be planning what you're going to do to show your personal appreciation to the gifts that God has given to the church. A special week or a special month that's set aside to appreciate those in ministry, those gifts God gave the church, is a very good thing. But let me just say, when I was a pastor for those 20 years, I felt most appreciated when people honestly took to heart and put into practice the things that I preached. Throughout the year, that's when I really felt appreciated. So, I hope this has been a blessing. I hope it's been a challenge to you. I want you to chew on this week and see what God will say into your spirit. Well, God bless you. We love you. Be in church somewhere Sunday, spending some quality time with God.